Brahmachaluka dipati sahampati Katanjali Alhivaram Ayachata Santita Sataparajaka Jatika Desetu Dhammam Anukapimam Pajam
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammaṃ Saṅghaṃ Namasami. So this is an opportunity to get together and celebrate a great teacher, Luang Por Chah. With my respect to the Venerable Sangha that's assembled here, and all of you who have this interest in this teaching that's been carried, the teaching of the Lord Buddha that's been transmitted through 2,552 years in time. In human terms, human history, that's a very long time, to the present day. And of course, Luang Por Chah, Ajahn Chah, was one of the teachers, was at least my teacher, who I met many years ago in 1967 in Thailand. Now with this since the subject of this reflection is gratitude, and this of course is something that you can't command or force anybody. It comes naturally when we reflect on the goodness of others, the generosity, the wisdom that we've received in our lives from parents, from teachers, and especially from somebody like Luang Por Chah, who for me personally was a kind of teacher that helped me to transform myself from a quite unhappy human being into one who has the opportunity to practice the Dhamma and find a way of getting beyond my own personal problems. There's one of the great English poets of the 18th century, William Blake. He said, gratitude is heaven itself. And I've always liked that, because gratitude is something that we might even take for granted. We're quite easy going around saying thank you almost on every occasion. But that's more of a perfunctory sense of just gratitude for something, or just maybe a habit. But in this sense of gratitude, the Pali word is gatanyu gataveti. It's a gratitude that comes from reflecting on the good things that one has received in one's life. And of course, in the Western world at this time where I live, I've been living in Europe for the past 33 years, and of course it's affluent society, very materialistic, and of course the emphasis is not on gratitude. That really is not an important part of the cultural expectation, but more like demanding rights and asserting yourself and being successful. So the kind of zeitgeist of the age, the kind of atmosphere that you find in modern Europe or America is one, a sense of a glorification of oneself, self-importance. Seems to be what is encouraged and expected of modern people living in Europe at this time. And then being trained as a Buddhist monk, this is over 40 years now. I've been in this robe. I only intended, when I first ordained, to spend 2 years. I thought, like most American males of that time, 2 years would be enough. I'd probably get enlightened and could return to the States. So this year will be my 44th Vasa. And so because during this time when I encountered Luang Por Chah, I began to understand the value of monastic life. Before that, I was really only interested in meditation, because I saw Buddhist meditation, practice of vipassana meditation, as a possible way to deal with my personal problems and anxieties about life. And that was what I really, was interested in resolving. The idea of being a Buddhist monk, bhikkhu, for the rest of my life was not something I had anticipated or expected. But when I met Luang Por Chah in 1967, he's the one that made it very clear to me the value of monastic life as a way of practice. That he combined Dhamma with the Vinaya in a way that I'd never really contemplated it before. When you're just interested in meditation or interested only in Dhamma, then it's easy for somebody like myself from my social background to dismiss Vinaya. Being an American by birth and coming from the West Coast, which at that time in the early 60s was a very kind of the idea of being free and doing whatever you liked was the quality of life at that time. I'd been living in Berkeley as a student at the University of California, and of course that was at that time in the early 60s was a society of just asserting your independence, your opinions, your views, and living a completely free life. There were no kind of boundaries, and boundaries were considered as bad, evil things that prevent you from really knowing yourself. But beginning to recognize that just living a hedonistic life just based on selfish ideas was not the way to end suffering. I could tell that very quickly. So I left the United States. I volunteered for the American Peace Corps in 1963, just before President Kennedy was assassinated. So I was actually in the Peace Corps training in Hawaii when he was assassinated, and that was, of course, a big shock. And I was sent off to Sabah in Malaysia. And of course this brought me into the Theravada world, in the fact that I was in Southeast Asia where I'd never been before. And of course Thailand was not far away. It was an easy place to go to on holidays. So first holiday I went off to Thailand and Cambodia. Now, when I finished my contract, then I returned to Thailand and started practicing meditation at one of the main temples in Bangkok. And from there, I began to see the value of meditation, which led me to an interest in ordination. Now, before the Buddha passed away, he was questioned, what will we do without our teacher? And he says, I leave you the Dhamma Vinaya. And so this is quite an enigmatic statement. Why didn't he just say, I leave you the Dhamma? Because in the West, most people are interested in Dhamma. They love the Dhamma. And the Vinaya is not so popular. And so, and oftentimes easily seen in terms of moralistic boundaries and restrictions on behavior that modern day people do not respect or like or think necessary in their lives. But I found in the training I received with Luang Por Chah in his monastery in northeast Thailand, in Newborn, it was I began to really value the fact of learning to live within a restrained way, rather than just interpreting things in my own way, and this sense of I can do it myself attitude that I had. And of course, the Ajahn Chah is very famous for his strict Vinaya, because in Thailand there are, so many 200,000 monks and monasteries everywhere, ranging from the very best to probably the worst. They've got an enormous amount of Buddhist monks living in Thailand, and of course there's and part of the Thai Buddhism can be just seen as ceremonial or academic. Luang Por Chah was very much emphasizing Patipata, or meditation practice, combined with the Vinaya. And this I found a practice most beneficial. Before, I just used a method of meditation, somebody's method, that was only applicable really to a kind of formal sitting practice. But in Luang Por Chah's approach, his whole way of developing vipassana was through living the monastic life, using Vinaya as a reference for and as a guide for behavior, physical behavior and speech, to be mindful. And so the emphasis was on mindfulness, awareness, knowing yourself, knowing what you're feeling, knowing the causes of suffering, the attachment to views, opinions, and desires that arise in our minds, investigating this according to the teaching of the Four Noble Truths. So this was the basic teaching Luang Por Chah emphasized. And when he taught, he always was mentioning these Four Noble Truths, and to learn how to investigate them and develop the insights so that one can find out for oneself. It's no longer just, what the Buddha taught in India 2,552 years ago, but you can actually find out for yourself. And of course, this attitude of finding out for yourself is very much what attracts Western people, or in countries such as European countries or North America, Australia, New Zealand, countries where Buddhism really had there was not much interest, knowledge, or understanding of it before. And in the past 50 years, of course, there's been an enormous increase in an interest in the teaching of the Buddha. And I've been involved in that for over 50 years, actually. I've been in about 1955, 56, I became interested in Buddhism.